Hello internet, welcome to another video, and today I just want to share with you a bit of a minion tech that I wasn't necessarily made aware of, but rather reminded of by one of you guys in the comments. This bit of minion tech is a Theorem Infection, one of the Deimos Arcanes. Standing in a zone created by a Residual Arcane increases damage of companions and summoned allies within 90 meters, which is a humongous range by the way, by 24% per second, stacking up to 15 times, and the effect persists for 20 seconds upon leaving the zone. Now this is obviously a bit limiting because it only works on summoned allies and companions, not regular allies, and you also need to have a kit gun equipped, because Residual Arcanes only fit on kit guns. So I pulled out and dusted off my Doom Shroom, a strange sentence, I know, and equipped it with Residual Shock. This gives you a 20% chance on kit gun kill to spawn an electrified spike for 12 seconds, which deals 200 electricity damage to enemies within 10 meters. Additionally, this also adds electricity damage to Theorem Arcanes if you're standing in the zone. Now, I wanted to see how much of an effect this actually has, because when fully stacked up, this Arcane combo provides your summoned companions and allies with 360% damage. So the first thing I did is I have finally updated Harold's build so that he has Galvanized Elementalist, and I also switched him over to Vital and Electricity. I did not want to completely change his build and go for full damage though, because I still want him to prime for me. Here, by the way, is the full Hound setup for Harold, since people keep asking for it, so there it is. Now, Harold was already pretty good before this. He could easily chew his way through base level Steel Path, but with this bit of new minion tech, he can actually chew through level 190 Steel Path, and that's with me not actually using abilities to trigger additional Hounds to spawn through Duplex Bond. I also ended up changing my kit gun setup a little bit because I didn't want to aim down sights with Galvanized Crosshairs, and I also ended up switching Vital to Gas since Harold is really good at priming Vital, so I don't need it. The main thing I wanted to test though were Caliban's boys, because they're also affected by the buff from the Theorem Arcane, and it buffs them quite a bit. Not as much as Nourish, which is something we might explore later in another video, but it still buffs them quite a bit, and when you combine them with Harold, you basically don't have to do anything and most enemies will die very fast. One problem that I ran into though, and this almost made me give up on the entire setup, was that the Arcane was seemingly not working most of the time. I would spawn the spike, I would stand in the spike, and I would simply not get the buff. Luckily, I ended up doing a bit of googling and found out that it's not actually a problem with the Arcane, but rather a UI problem. Sometimes the buff just doesn't show up, and you have to wait for it to completely run out before it will show up again. Which can sometimes be difficult because you don't see how many stacks you have, and unless you have 15 stacks, the buff will refresh its duration when you run into the spike again. So I spent the first hour running around, like jumping around, being like, why doesn't it work? Why am I not getting the buff? Is it because it's off the ground? This is stupid. Why didn't they fix this? But then I found out that it's actually just a visual problem with the UI and the buff is invisible. I even tried dying and resurrecting to see if that would help, but yeah, it was just a visual bug. So if you try this and it seems like the Arcane is not working because you're not getting the stacks, it's because sometimes the buff just doesn't show up. One thing I was pleasantly surprised by was how easy it was to get the setup going and to keep it rolling. I thought it would be far more taxing, far more difficult, far more cumbersome, but it is surprisingly simple. As long as you get a few kills with your kit gun every now and then, you will spawn a handful of spikes because you can have more than one, and then as you run around and you do stuff and you pick up resources and credits and all that, you will simply keep the buff rolling on its own. You don't have to pay much attention to it, it's fairly passive, which is good. I don't want a difficult setup. For me, minions are supposed to be relatively simple, you set it up and it works. I don't want to be juggling a bunch of stuff. So, if you're into minion stuff, I would very much recommend you try this out. The Arcanes are very cheap, so if you don't want to farm them yourself, the Theorem Arcanes are about 6 platinum a pop, give or take, and the residual ones about 3. Also, you don't just have to do this on Caliban, you can do it on other frames that spawn companions or allies. It even works on Spectres. So you can do it on Necros, Korra, Atlas, it even works on Wukong's Celestial Twin. But anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. This was a much shorter video than usual, and it's also a different style of video, but I just wanted to share this bit of minion tech with you for those of you that enjoy faffing around with minions, just in case you forgot about it, like me. And as always guys, I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Then I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, it means a lot to me. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.